This video is especially relevant because I just got done recording the video talking about retiring my Arbiter on my account. So this is going to be an interesting topic, but essentially we are talking about Iron Twins, and we're going to be talking about a team that everybody should have access to these champions, where there's going to be some fairly easy substitutions that you can use. And I have showcased this team on my account before, but since then we've obviously had the Iron Twins Redux, so this team works even better, and you don't need anywhere near these gear requirements to do it. Again, this is going to be a team that everybody should have access to, so even low spend or free-to-play players, and it's going to be 100% successful across all stages, stage 15 of Iron Twins. Let's go ahead, let's do a run with it. As you can see, this is the team here. While it's in the background, I can kind of walk you through what is happening essentially, and I know there's compositions out there that you can run that have, for example, like a Helicath combined with some reset champions and those sorts of things, like very niche teams. But the problem with that is it ties up a lot of gear. It's basically like setting up a second clan boss run, that if that gear gets moved around or if a mastery changes or something like that, you are essentially screwed, where you're going to have to, come in and optimize it again and those sorts of things. And I don't like that. I like to just, set things. It just runs. It just works. So this team is exactly that. It runs. It works. We have Pythion, Syl, Mithrala, Geomancer, and of course, Godseeker Aniri in this team. Absolutely fantastic stuff. So Syl is bringing the decreased speed with her A1. It's not crucial, but it's essentially just going to mean that you're not giving him turn meter every time you get a buff. Now, with this particular composition, it's not necessarily bad if the Iron Twins do get turn meter, because it's going to help them cycle faster, which means they hit you more, which means Geomancer reflects more damage. Mithrala, everybody is guaranteed to have, right? You just got to farm Hydra enough, and realistically, if you're pushing into stage 15 of Iron Twins, and if you're wanting an automatic team that you can use to farm it, you probably either have Mithrala or you're very close, I would imagine. Geomancer doesn't have to be Geomancer. It can be any sort of a strong damage dealing champion. So prime substitutions would be Newt if you had diffusion for him, Marius once you manage to get that particular champion, Ninja if you have him, any sort of, again, a single target or a boss killing damage dealer. So He-Man, if you bought the champion pass, would probably work pretty well in this particular team composition as well. Any champion like that, maybe even a Whisper, as long as you can keep her alive, or as long as Godseeker is able to revive her. We have a lot of revives in this team though, right? So 3 out of the 5 champions are revivers. We have Godseeker coming in for heals, debuff extensions, all that sort of good stuff. You don't necessarily have to have her. You could bring in a Rector Droth. You could bring in, a Grush the Mangler. I've done a showcase on him on my account before as well. And as you can see, we got through stage 15 in 2 minutes and 4 seconds, which is definitely not bad for a team like this. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about the rest of the champions. Pythion, if you don't have him, again, same kind of thing. Any sort of a healer, especially if they bring a block debuffs. So you could use Sepulchre Sentinel, right? Anybody who's going to bring that particular set of skills. Godseeker Aniri is very nice because of her revive. It actually brings in a reset on their skills. So whoever your damage dealer is, if they die, she can reset their skills when she brings them back. If Pythion dies or if Syl dies, she can also bring them back with reset skills, which can be pretty clutch in certain instances. You could not... it's going to be hard to find a replacement for Mithrala, because Mithrala is, of course, bringing poisons on the A1. She's bringing increased defense and increased attack, as well as shields and strengthens and a cleanse for your team. So she's absolutely fantastic. I do have her in Faultless Defense. I think I was trying to mess around inside Fire Knight hard there. I wouldn't recommend running her inside Faultless Defense, but it is what it is. In terms of the builds, this is kind of what we're looking at right here. So for Geomancer, 256 on the speed, 550 on the accuracy is definitely overkill, especially since the Iron Twins Redux. You don't need anywhere near this amount of stats on them. What I would recommend is go onto the Hell Hades website and take a look at the Raid Stages tool. It's free for everybody to access. You can see the resistances and the accuracies of whichever Iron Twins that you are trying to fight. So I'd recommend going and checking that out. And in that way, you can kind of get a good idea of what you need for a build on your particular champion. These are the stats that we're rocking on Godseeker Aniri. She doesn't have a particularly special build because she's just being used inside Sand Devils, so a little bit of resistance, a lot of HP, a lot of defense, right? Again, you don't need anything near these particular stats to make it work, though. We have Scylla the Drakes, who, as you can see, is partly naked, so she doesn't even have a full amount of gear on her. These are the stats, though. Nothing too crazy. On Syl, you just want enough accuracy to try and land her A1 decreased speed in this particular situation, or for regular PvE content, you do also want her stun to land as well. Pythion, he is a very strong build, and you know, you're going to beat it without him being this strong. This is mainly my PvP build Pythion, so, you know, take it with a bit of a grain of salt. And then finally, Mithrala. She certainly has a decent amount of accuracy, resistance, and all those sorts of good things, so she doesn't struggle to survive too much, because she can pretty much resist whatever's being thrown her way. For the masteries and stuff like that, there is no special masteries that you have to make use of, so you don't need to worry about, you know, it messing up your tunes or anything like that, which is quite nice. Geomancer does not have to be awakened, and again, the very nice thing about this is a set it and forget it kind of team, where you essentially don't have to worry too much about the gearing. You don't have to worry about, you know, taking gear off these champions and putting it on somebody else. It's just, it is what it is, right? As you can see, Syl doesn't even have some gear on her. They're not optimized very well. This is a team that just works. And it's so nice because, again, at least 2, possibly 3 of these champions you'll be able to get, or you will have already as a free-to-play. Syl and Mithrala you for sure are going to have. Geomancer can be replaced with so many damage-dealing champions. Probably even your starter champion if you picked Kayle. But it's going to be a little bit of a longer fight because the poisons definitely take longer to tick as opposed to Geomancer's reflect damage. And in case you're wondering, that is essentially how we're getting the damage off, as Geomancer has a passive that when he places a burn on the enemy team, any sort of damage they do to you, a percentage of it, I believe it's 5%, I want to say, I'll check his kit after, gets reflected back to them. It's also very strong to have some of your champions inside the Brimstone Mastery like Syl is, especially if you have somebody high awakened like a Mithrala. She is going to do absolute work inside the Brimstone Blessing. I think I said Mastery, but Blessing, because getting that protected Brimstone, or the protected smite specifically on the boss, is going to do good work, because he does cleanse himself every so often once he gets below certain HP thresholds. But the nice thing about that is Geomancer's reflect damage doesn't count as taking him below that threshold. So if it gets damaged due to reflected damage, it's not actually going to retaliate against you, meaning that your debuffs stay on and you don't take all that extra damage. So this is a very interesting composition, and it's so nice that you can do all affinities with it as well, which is partly what makes it so strong. As you can see, Mithrala has none of the stacks of the Iron Brand on her either, because she just has super high resistance for this. Mithrala, of course, having the ability that any sort of accuracy she has on her also gets translated over to resistance. Of course, you've seen that she has over like 750 accuracy or something crazy like that. So she's going to have a healthy amount of resistance inside this dungeon. She's sitting at about, I think, like 900 resistance in total on my account, which is very, very strong, obviously. So, and we're at about 2 minutes in here. We've almost downed the boss once again, just to show you how consistent it is. As you can see, Geomancer is a very squishy champion, right? Like, he's an epic who is not necessarily built the best, but he stays alive without issue just because of the amount of support that we have around him. This is a pretty shoddy build that I think anybody could obtain realistically, especially over time farming this. And you can take this same team idea and you can apply it to a lower stage as well if you need, right? So you don't necessarily have to copy one for one what I have going on. And then I wanted to show you Geomancer's reflect damage here as well. So this passive here reduces the damage all allies receive by 15% and deflects that damage onto each enemy under 8 HP burn debuff placed by this champion. So just keep in mind, you don't want to run a ninja and a geo in the same team. Also, 15% damage mitigation is the same as just having a strengthen on you, basically, or the weak version of strengthen at the very least. So he's helping your team survive as well. And then you're also getting the strengthens from Pythion. If he revives, you're getting the strengthens from Mithrala too. So it's such a strong team composition. That being said, I hope this was helpful for you guys, and if you have any recommended substitutions for any of these champions, especially if you use this account or this team composition, go ahead, let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear it, and thank you all so much for watching. As always, see you next time.